Hello, this is Amy Brown, Director of Events and Education for FacilitiesNet. Thank you for joining us for today's webcast, Tips on How to Inspect and Maintain Your Roof. Our speakers today are Chris Shermock of Versico and Andrew Dennison of Drone Deploy. Andrew is Director of Enterprise Services at Drone Deploy. He helps the enterprise clients design and operate their global drone programs. He's familiar with the entire drone tech stack and industry-specific ROI. Prior to Drone Deploy, Andrew was the founder of Uplift Data Partners, a global drone service provider that was acquired in 2018. Chris is the Corporate Accounts Manager at Versico Roofing System and has been with the company for over 20 years. Chris and the Versico team have built relationships across the country with building owners, facility managers, and many other national customers. Chris and his department provide assistance with commercial roofing projects. So today's webcast will focus on an important aspect of your building, your roof. And the learning objectives include how to perform accurate drone inspections of your roof, learning how to utilize technology to uncover problems undetected to the naked eye, and identify the savings that can be expected by taking a proactive approach to maintaining your roofing assets. Before we get into the content for today's webcast, I'd like to go over just a few details. Like Paul mentioned earlier, a live question and answer session will be featured for the second half of today's presentation. So to submit your questions, please navigate to the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and type in your questions. We'll try to get through all the questions as possible. You'll also receive a copy of a PDF of today's presentation slides and a link to a brief online assessment. Upon successful completion of this assessment, you'll receive your CEU certification. And then today's webcast will also be archived at facilitiesnet.com/webcast. So let's get into the content, and we'll start with Andrew from Drone Deploy.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Yes, I'm with Drone Deploy. I've been working with Drone Deploy for quite some time and here to share the story in about 10 to 15 on how drone technology can help you manage your roofing portfolio. So I'm going to get deeper into roofing in a minute, but first we always like to start high level because drones and drone technology are new for many people. So I kind of like to anchor everyone on like, what are we doing in general? So Drone Deploy, we are by far the #1 drone software company out there. We have more flights, more missions, more drones, more customers, more, all that, more money, the whole thing. So it's very excited to be here. I'm really like where I work. The vision and mission of Drone Deploy is to be a one-stop shop for your entire drone program solution. So anything to do with collecting, analyzing drone imagery is going to come directly from Drone Deploy. So what we're building on the left, you can see a bunch of different types of technology that are good for collecting image data. So you have drones on the top, 3D cameras, phones. We're integrating with the Boston Dynamics Spot Dog robots, satellite imagery as well. We integrate and control with our software all of those sensors with the mission of allowing our customers to collect data quickly and easily so that they can input the data into our system and then do what they want to do with it, which is measure it, analyze it, annotate it, share it, document, record it. And we have a ton of tools around measuring, sharing that we'll show in a second that can help you gain value from the drone data that you've collected. And what we found is a lot of our customers want the drone data where they already spend their time working. And in that case, we've integrated with a lot of third-party applications you can see on the right. Google Drive, obviously, Esri, Box, Procore, Autodesk. And so if there's ways that you want to use the data, there's a good chance we have an API and we can actually dump that data directly into your system. So at a very high level, that's what Drone Deploy is doing. We want to empower the drone workforce to work for you guys. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you why people are using drones, specifically on roofs, and also we're going to cover pavement a little bit. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the outputs, the use cases, the ROI that will hopefully help you guys be better. So I like to, one button too many. Let me go back if I can. I like to anchor everyone here. So this is a commercial property, a sample site that we have. the idea when you fly with Drone Deploy, some of our core technology is that you are actually creating a 2D and 3D model of anything that you fly over. So what you're looking at on the screen is an image, but that image it's got measurements, it's got 3 dimensions of measurements. You can zoom in, zoom out, tag, annotate, and that's really the basis that's the start of how we take our tools and do more analysis to deliver to you guys condition assessment reports. But it all starts with the 3D model. So I like to anchor everyone on that. We found many of our property customers, so I know that the title is roofing, but many of our property customers want to look at the pavement, the roof, and what we call the exterior or the facade, landscaping, et cetera, that third piece. And so most of our customers in the facility space are analyzing these 3 components of their facilities. And so I'm going to just jump a little bit more to show you what that analysis may look like. So first off, property condition assessments. You can see we have some artificial intelligence that will detect roof defects. Something we're really excited about. And you can see a lot of the tags on this left image over here. The red outlines are detecting defects. And then the green, yellow, and there's a couple red tags here are also detecting defects. And the green, yellow, red is an indicator of severity of that defect. In our software, you're able to click any one of the defects that's been looked at by the AI and see what's tagged, and you can write your own notes and you can share it, and you can tag, if you have someone that's going to go repair the roof, you can tag someone in there so they can see the imagery themselves. So it's a really neat way to quickly assess your roof and be able to get an idea of what needs to be repaired, what the budget is going to be for repair without ever having to walk on that roof. And that's a really big benefit for a lot of our customers. You can see here on the right, you can also, and this is just a pavement example, but it works for all of us. You can output what you create in Drone Deploy into a PDF report and share it with your client. For example, if you want to deliver an actual, an output to them. So that's all part of the software. It works for pavement as well. We're detecting 20 different types of pavement defects and delivering PCI or pavement condition index reports. You can see here is an example of detecting a crack. And then what we're delivering on the reporting side for pavement is actually a PCI map that shows each section of pavement. And then it has a red, yellow, green indicator how healthy or unhealthy that pavement is. And many of our clients are using these reports, both roof and pavement, to determine how to spend their annual budgets at the end of the year. So they know where repairs are most necessary across their portfolio. We're really excited about our thermal technology for roofs. We spent a long time years ago developing thermal imagery for drones and being able to, 1, stitch it so you can get a thermal map of your entire roof, and then 2, detect thermal anomalies. And so we actually can tell you, and you can see right here, you can identify an issue that we think this might be a roof leak. You can automate the report creation. You just have a bunch of these tags and you can hit a button and it turns them into a PDF report for you. The headline that we've heard from a lot of our roofing customers is we're detecting things with the thermal imagery that we would not detect if we were boots on the roof inspecting it. Obviously, the thermal allows you to sort of see through the membrane and detect intrusions that might not come up to the surface. And we do fly all our thermal missions half an hour after sunset. And these reports, while AI generates the defect detection, we still have roofing engineers that are evaluating the imagery before it gets delivered to you. So it's a 2-part, 1 part AI, 1 part human engineering on the reporting. Good news, we're not just outside. We're actually developing to go inside as well. So we're including the Boston Dynamics Spot Dog and many other different types of robots as part of our definition of drone for Drone Deploy. And we want to be able to do everything that you saw on the outside, we want to be able to do on the inside. So you can see right here is an example of an interior deliverable that we have. The beauty of our interior 3D models is you walk around and record a video of your facility once. So a warehouse or a big box retailer, to get a full 3D map of the entire interior might take you 1 hour, if that. You just have to walk each aisle. So it's really, really fast to collect. And then all of our tagging and annotation tools are available on the interior as well as the exterior. Here's another sample of some of the automated reports that we provide. Our customers really like, we work with a lot of customers who are concerned about the roof on one facility or two facilities, and they read the reports carefully. But many of them are asking us to do hundreds or more roof inspections. And what they're really looking for is a rating system so that they can know the top 25 roofs that really need to be repaired. And that's why we've developed this very simple rating system, below average, average, above average, how many critical issues, some basic information that allows you to better prioritize and rank your repairs and replacements across your entire portfolio. I like to say that this is useful on one roof because our condition assessments are less expensive, much faster, and also I would say more standardized across your portfolio because it's AI. It's not different roofing engineers doing a different way in each location. And what that leads to, one more thing before I get to the main event here, but we also offer roof measurement reports. So you can actually extract the measurements of each face. You can see right here, and it can actually be delivered to you as a CAD model that you can upload to your software if you're going to do any roof design, repairs, etc. We've found that solar roof installers are really big users of these roof measurement reports because it allows them to almost automatically, you can fly the drone this morning, upload the data right now, and in 2 or 3 hours, you'll have this report on your desk, and you can design your solar installations for rooftop solar almost instantly, which we found is a much faster process than anywhere else. But as I was talking to you earlier about the roof assessment reports and really ranking and prioritizing, at the end of the day, the value is good on one store because we're less expensive and faster for condition assessments, but the value increases when you do thousands of locations, thousands of storage properties, because what happens is you're able to better prioritize, better rank the repairs, replacements, because everything is objectively scored and standardized by our AI to start. And the idea is that we hope this will help our customers improve their annual budgeting process. If you're a little bit more proactive with your condition assessments, you can be more proactive in your budgeting and lower budgets over time. The sample image you're seeing on the right side of the screen today is one of our customers who prioritize. You can see the red locations is where they're going to have significant repairs. Orange means there's going to be some minor repairs. Yellow is maybe decisions to be made manually, and green is nothing's going to happen next year. It's in good shape. And this is what we're really excited about, and what we think we can help a lot of our customers with in the future is better annual budgeting with improved condition assessment workflows. So thank you very much, everyone. I believe that's all my slides. I'm happy to take questions at the end about anything drone related at all. I've been doing drones a long time and love chatting about it. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much, Andrew. So now we're going to turn it over to Chris to talk a little bit more about inspection and then maintenance of your roofing systems. So Chris, take it away.
Thanks, Amy, and thanks, Andrew. Very cool technology we actually employ on from time to time too. I think mine will be a little more old school presentation, but also supports a lot of the things that Andrew said and utilizing some of that technology. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to move through some slides fast, so buckle up. We'll talk the benefits of an annual roof walk, as well as who and when those should be done and the types of things that should be looked for, and what that process should look like if you are employing somebody else, or if you need a guideline to do it yourself, or somebody on your team can do it. So one thing we do have in common is you own or manage a lot of commercial buildings with roofs on them, and we manufacture and warrant billions of square feet. And like I said, we all have in common that from time to time, we all get the call, it's leaking like Niagara Falls in here. And while that's probably not the case, you probably are seeing some evidence of water starting to make its way in through stained tiles, and perhaps even an active roof leak where the water's coming in, or maybe you're already unfortunate at the point where you've installed a clever water diversion system to keep the water off of the boss's desk or the servers, or where it doesn't need to be. But ultimately, you're going to need to bring in a professional to make some permanent long-term repairs and take care of the problem. So what we will talk about is how to avoid those big spends and some of the ways to do it. So some of the benefits of that annual roof walk, while you're probably not going to be like this person chilled out staring into the sun looking at the mountains, this gives you an ability a lot of times to often avoid those big headaches and the situations that occur when the water enters the building with the tenants and some of the friction that starts there, and while also prolonging and stretching the life of your roof out and avoiding those larger catastrophic issues with the bigger spend to help with your annual budgets. And also, we're in a very competitive business, and having a nice, clean interior space often helps get that lease or keep that tenant. Typical things that we see that cause a lot of the typical standard damage are extreme weather events, hail, high wind events, things like that, followed by a lot of water coming in. Anytime you have service on your roof with your air handling units or other installations, good time to take a look at the roof. And unfortunately, vandalism and some of the other accidental type damage that occurs up there. Best time we feel to look seasonally is in the spring, especially I live in northern Wisconsin. When the snow clears, it's really a good time to take a look. Expansion, contraction has occurred, and things tend to pop open, blow up, if you will, and good to catch those things on an annual walk prior to the water coming in, those April showers. And again in the fall, before, if you have snow, before that roof gets covered, clean out the drains, the scuppers, gutters, anywhere we can get the water off that roof quicker. And like I mentioned, the severe weather events where high winds have disrupted things, maybe knocked trees down, things like that. And when Mr. HVAC or any of your rooftop servicemen are up there, perhaps that panel didn't go on the right way and the high wind blows it across the roof, poking holes through and creating all kinds of problems for you. So good times to trigger a roof walk. We recommend if you're comfortable yourself, you can get up there as frequent as possible, or one of your team, as long as you're trained up pretty well to do so and know what you're looking for. Also, many of us have a pet contractor that they're able to put up on that roof to take a look. Generally, those guys are pretty happy to do so for you. Roof consultants provide very detailed reports. So do the drone guys. And for a fee, and they do a nice job with that. My team, we do this for many of our customers around the country and provide that as a value added to services that we provide. Little roofs are all the types of roofs on the lower slope, things that you're going to encounter. If you're not familiar, if you're an old pro, it's a reminder. If you're a little newer or don't have the chance to get on roofs, things that you expect to see, single plies, the PVCs are usually white, reflective. They're highly resistant to animal fats and different contaminants. We see these roofs on restaurants and buildings that have a lot of contamination coming out of exhaust fans, things like that. Available in several colors, sizes, and thicknesses. Close cousin of that is a TPO, which is now the king of low slope commercial roofing. There's a lot of manufacturers that make it. It's very user friendly for the installers. Also predominantly used in a white to take advantage of its reflectivity qualities, and generally between 45 and 80 mils thick. The thicker the material, the longer the warranty, the higher defense and warranty available for puncture and hail and things like that happen up on the roof. A little older school, or EPDM, or the old rubber roof, which is like laying a bicycle into a giant one across your roof and either ballasting it with stone, big worn rock that you see often, or it's glued or mechanically attached down to the substrate. These roofs are generally used in black, but they're available in white, and again, a variety of thicknesses and size panels to cover your roof quickly. A couple last ones, asphaltic based, either modifieds or asphaltic built up roof systems. These are older school systems again, and we see them with either a smooth surface that has a reflective white or silver coating, a mineral surface, which would be a cap sheet that looks much like the shingles on your homes with that type of texture. Or probably the most familiar is a pea gravel type surface, which protects that roof from the UV exposure as well as foot traffic. Lastly, coating systems we see out there. Generally, both of these systems that are pictured are used in a re-roof type of situation. The coatings we recommend go on a steeper slope roof, something where the water moves off quickly. What we don't like to see is water ponding on coating systems. It typically prematurely degrades those materials and creates failures. And a spray foam or a puff roof, we don't see these as much, but in a re-roofing sense where there's tough flashing situations, flashing heights, this does lend itself as a good alternative. We'll send you back with a little commercial roofing industry knowledge here and kind of how this cracks up. I had mentioned that TPOs are the king right now of low slope commercial roofing. They've eaten away and at their friends, the asphaltic and EPDM roofs. If we were to have a chart like this going back 10 years, you'd see that the EPDM and asphaltic really dominated, and TPO slowly may decline, while PVCs have held their own, generally because of the fundamental, the things that naturally come with those, the contaminant and grease and animal fat resistance. So there's some industry knowledge for you. Let's talk about a physical approach to the process of evaluating a roof. And either if you're doing this yourself or somebody on a team, perhaps as a guideline, or if you're contracting someone, what you should expect to see that they're doing if they're physically there on site, so that you're getting your money's worth. The process should start inside, looking at the underside of the deck. If you can see it, evidence of moisture entry through the deck or these bar joists, you'll see rusted spots. Perhaps like on the earlier picture, you start to see some stained tiles. Recommendation is to ask around. The people in a facility are glad to talk when you ask them questions. When does it leak? Does it blow hard from the south with the rain, and that's what causes it? Things like that to take note of. And then also, if you can identify where that actually is from a penetration going through the roof, or maybe you can see out a window, and make note of that before you take to the roof, so you can do a little extra investigation in those areas to see if you can't find a culprit. After that, we recommend starting on the outside of the building, taking a look around the perimeter, which sounds odd, but a lot of times control joints, different components, these panels, things like that can fail and cause issue. And a lot of times the roof is blamed for it. What we see, like here, a coping cap that's been knocked off and continues to lift. Once on the roof, it's good to take a good look at this to see how much damage is here and how it needs to be repaired. Here we see some stains coming down the side of a wall. Not a very good photo, but there's probably something going on at the edge of this roof where it's allowing water to get into the system. A lot of times mortar joints fail, also take a lot of water in, and the roof's blamed. And, it's a better picture of that wall that's staining. There's trapped moisture in this wall that needs to be taken a look at, again, once you're up on the top of the roof. Once done, take to the roof, either internal access or up a ladder, and with a systematic approach, cover the entire perimeter before you start getting distracted with other things on a roof, so you make sure you don't miss anything. And that includes either a drip edge, gutters, these types of coping systems, things like this, and make note. What we see often is things like this that you might have seen in the past. This is the poorly flashed or installed coping. It's ponding water. There's caulk over caulk over caulk, which probably needs to be maintained every year, and this will take water. What we really like to see is nice tight welded miter corners and clean joints to where there's also slopes so water can't pond. Because what we see is like this, where water's ponded on top of this metal coping. There's also fasteners keeping it in place through the top and the horizontal. We prefer to see that in the verticals here so that the water can't get through. Ultimately, this is going to be a problem for this owner. Some compound type issues. We have aggregate wall panel here with, again, that metal coping. It was never flashed correctly, and regardless of the type of roof system, the roof's going to get blamed when the water comes down this wall and gets in. That's definitely an annual type of maintenance issue. And again, expansion, contraction with the different temperatures probably pops this open frequently. Older type construction, where you see these clay coping tiles and older walls that have not been maintained. If this is taking water in anywhere through the cap or this wall, it's coming out behind your roofing flashings. And again, pointing the finger at the roof, when in reality, we have components that are actually the contributors to the problem. Or something like this, where if you would have walked around in a winter and saw that perhaps moisture got in here and froze and expanded and blew that up, or maybe a service person set something on there and broke it. If you'd not caught this in the spring, and when the first couple 100 gallons of water pour down through there, that's unfortunately when you'd find out about it. Another maintenance type item is where roofing flashings are terminated on your wall, and they typically use a bead of construction type sealant there, and that fails. Over time, the UV breaks that down. That needs to be looked at annually and fixed as necessary. Another shot of a wall. It's most likely taking water in, and again, coming behind the roofing flashings and coming out in the roof as if it were a roof leak. So definitely important to check out. Lastly, after you've taken a good look at your perimeter, is to take to the field of the roof and check all the seams on that roof as close as you can. And while you're doing that, all the different projections, units that are up there for different corner flashings, any type of securement issues, the lenses on your skylights to make sure they haven't become cracked or broken. And things that we see that are maintenance items out in the field, again, are these penetration type pockets where electric or gas pipes run through. The sealants that are used ultimately sink and break down, and this becomes a little water catch. The water has nowhere to go but down. Gas service that was run through the side of a unit HVAC curb, for example, and a south hard driving rain from this direction would likely put some water inside the building. And again, the roof's being blamed. The electrician left after flashing this in, probably a new install, and this is great for that day and probably a few weeks, but that's going to fail. It's not a permanent fix, nor are things like this that we see frequently when we walk roofs that we need a professional to come out and flash these correctly. Here's somebody that installed the roof, but didn't use the correct pipe flashings. And we see these things, quite honestly, it's cutting a corner, and ultimately that will be a water catch. And his friend went ahead and detailed with this piece of wire instead of using that steel band. This is a simple fix that'll perform for a long time when done correctly. Good things to take a look at when out in the field of a roof. I'd mentioned maintenance type items, and there's several that we consider annual building owner maintenance items, and that's keeping drains and scuppers and gutters free and clear so water is not impeded to flow off that roof. The quicker you can get the water off the roof, the less likely you're to have a roof leaks. Although this sounds, you take it for granted, you'd be surprised how much of this actually exists out there. Some other maintenance items, again, a closer look at one of these sealer pockets that's failing, and now you have points of entry to where this is going to take water in probably every time it rains. And old neoprene-based or EPDM-based flashings that are broken down from the UV that need to just flat out be replaced. And again, we talked about the PVC membrane, which is really the right system for things like this, where you have grease. This is probably over restaurants to where they're not being maintained on a monthly, bi-monthly, or probably at least that frequency, and that starts to overflow, and this will prematurely degrade these materials, and you'll be replacing the roof much sooner than needed. Lastly with that is the debris on the roof, and we see all kinds of stuff up there. A pile of trash like this, there's probably nail screws that are going to allow the water to come through and probably stop the water from flowing from this area as well. So this should not be a situation that you have on any of your roofs. And can you imagine if the drains were clogged there and you have a new rooftop swimming pool that you didn't expect for? And one of these details here do fail, or maybe a puncture, something there allows these hundreds of gallons of water to come down. We have a tremendous catastrophic issue inside your building. And imagine if it doesn't get off and it freezes and you have a live load of snow and ice. Now, I don't think that's what happened to this building, but it's just kind of a cool picture. I recommend keeping those waterways, again, I can't stress enough, clear and free so that water can get off your roof. A couple of other maintenance items would be any kind of trees that are adjacent to your building, things like this that can allow, anytime that wind event comes and it blows that tree down, now you probably have some damage around the perimeter of your building and the roof. So if these things can be maintained and cleaned up, I highly recommend proactively doing that. Again, service events, I recommend having a service log on your roof or an access log so you know exactly who's up and when, so that if you do have issues, perhaps not pointing the finger, at least go back and figure out what happened and maybe they're responsible for it. Also, try to limit your rooftop traffic and keep walk pads, things to these service points to give the roof as much protection as possible. If you do find issues when you're walking your roof after an event like that, a tool is dropped or a piece of equipment, maybe a seam's opening, these single ply type roofs are very easy to make temporary repairs. We recommend just cleaning this with some soap and water, using a good construction grade sealant, laying a piece of plastic over it, and call your roofing professional to come out and make a permanent repair for you. The asphaltic roofs are not quite as easy, a little messier, but can be temporarily repaired with some roof cements, if you're familiar with those products. And if you are out on a roof in a smooth surface, especially old built up roof, and you see these types of bubbles, this is moisture that was trapped there from when they installed them. And these become brittle over the years as that roof ages. And walking across there carelessly and stepping in this, you probably just created any roof leak for yourself. So keep that in mind if you're on your own roof. A couple of do's and don'ts. If you're on the roof, be very careful where you are and how you're walking. A few steps backward could put you through the skylight or unfortunately off the edge of the roof. So please use caution if you or your team are up there. Living up in northern Wisconsin, we see this more than I'd like to admit. but I highly recommend not bringing a snow blower up on your roof to remove the snow. You'll create more problems than you had before you brought it up there. And lastly, on the TPO and PVC roofs, all these thermoplastics are slipperier than water slides. If you're not tied off correctly or prepared for something like this, I just recommend having a professional in and not putting yourself in harm's way up there. They're very slippery. If you're in a hail zone that's like this, in these areas that we have seen just tremendous issue, I strongly encourage you to look at the thicker type membranes that warrant against puncture and hail. And to kind of summarize, a good plan will save a lot of headaches and a lot of that friction between you and your customers, your tenants below. Always keep in mind those events that should trigger you to want to take a look at your roof after a service event, a big storm, or anything like that. Keep those roofs clean and let the water flow readily off the roof, and restrict access. You don't need more traffic up there than necessary. And if you are up there, please do get some training. You can lean on people like myself to get you on the right path there. And of course, safety is no accident. So I thank you for your time too, and do look forward to joining Andrew to answer your questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Chris. That was a lot of great information for our audience. As both Chris and Andrew mentioned, we are going to use the second half of this presentation to do a live Q&A with the audience. It's your chance to ask these industry experts any questions you have about roof inspections or maintenance, and we do have quite a few that have come in. Chris, one for you. First off is, why do you see TPO more popular than EPDM? What are the pros and cons of each?
We have several manufacturers of commercial roofing materials out there, and TPO is made by all of them now. It's compared to EPDM and asphalt, the foundations, the chemicals and the products that go into them, it's a lot more available, and the manufacturing facilities required are just a lot simpler than an EPDM type material. It's very user-friendly, and the equipment needed and the knowledge is limited compared to some of the other systems. It's in the price point, obviously, is very competitive.
Great, thank you. And just a reminder, you can ask your questions of either Andrew or Chris using the Q&A portion of the button at the bottom of your screen, and just type in your question. This question is probably for both of you, but we'll start with Andrew. Andrew, how do you factor in solar panels on the roof into the overall inspection plan?
Yeah, I saw that one. That was a good question. From a drone perspective, solar panels present some challenges because we can't fly drones under the solar panels. So it's not something that we can do. We can't detect your leaks and detect your defects as well with our artificial intelligence because the panels are in the way. But you can get your imagery and look at it manually, just like you would with any other roof report. And the benefit there's also a lot of use cases for inspecting solar panels with drones as well. And so you can get a good status update on how the solar is doing, as well as get an update on how the roof is.
Great. Chris, anything on your side with inspecting solar panels on a roof?
No, just that if you're going to go with a system, make sure you go with a solar system. Make sure you've installed a roof that's conducive to accepting that system. You don't want to put something up there and find out, oh, shucks, we should have used a different type of material or a different method to getting that system installed. It's important.
Great. Chris, another question for you is, what are the most common types of issues with a standing seam metal roof system?
Standing seam, generally the fasteners, a lot of them have the more premium type systems have clip systems where there's no exposed fasteners on a lot of the older buildings, and more industrial type. We see that there's a lot of fasteners, and they have those EPDM type or neoprene gaskets on those fasteners. Those do wear out. They have a shelf life, so to speak. And that's where we commonly see leaks. Also, if there's been a lot of traffic where deflection has been created from somebody stepping in the wrong areas, it starts to crease and crack, and you'll see those start to rust and fail over time.
Great, thank you. Andrew, we had a question on, can we use the drone deploy program with our own drones, or do you purchase them from your company? Can you give a little bit more information on?
Yeah, absolutely. You can use your own drones. Most of our customers do own their own drones and fly their own drones, and then upload the data to our software where you can get access to all the tools and the AI and tagging and annotations that I showed. We integrate really well with DJI drones. We integrate really well with Skydio drones if you own those. Other drones, we don't have as strong of integrations, but all drones can take pictures and upload data. So it's we're pretty open there. I'll just add one thing too. A lot of our customers don't own drones at all, don't have drones, don't even know how to have a drone license or anything. We can do the flying for you. We do lots of flights all over the country as part of this and just give you the data in our system so that you can just use the analysis tools instead. So there's a lot of different ways to sort of plug into Drone Deploy.
I'd like to add, we do utilize thermal imaging, and a lot of times before we go into a re-roof situation, and the drone technology is really just, it's night and day between having to get the airplane out and actually fly a real plane or use the camera. It's a very effective way to get that information.
Okay, so since we're talking a little bit about thermal imaging and things like that, we had one question: is there anything that cannot be seen? What types of roof services can infrared not see through? So is there anything that infrared won't see on the drones?
We've been asked to look at, for example, the operation of RTUs. Is it running at full capacity, half capacity? That's tough to do just with thermal imagery. Obviously, we cannot see through the RTU. As far as roof type, metal roofs don't look good on thermal imagery, but TPO, EDPM, all your standard commercial roofing we're doing that all day, every day. So that's would love to hear, Chris, your answer to that one too.
Yeah, I agree. Metal roofs do not work well. And I agree, there's really not much limitation. I think, and you mentioned you do them after sunset. It's the time of day and when they're done too, that you get your most effective feedback too. So that is important, that when that scan is done, to get the most effective report out from that.
Great, thank you both. We have a question on, do you need to remove HVAC units to re-roof a low slope roof, Chris?
Not necessarily remove. A lot of times we have to have them lifted based on if it's a re-roof and the existing roof is staying and you're adding additional insulation to get our value up to code, and that starts to limit your flashing heights. A lot of local codes require 5 inches, 8 inches. And at that time, that's when they put curb extenders on and lift the units actually a little higher so that you have the correct clearance, so you have good flashing heights. So not necessarily remove, but if you're going to, if you have a situation where you have some units that need to be changed out, coordinating that with the re-roof is the best. There's no reason to put a new roof down, then have all your service guys come in and destroy a brand new roof.
Right. Andrew, we kind of talked about the best types of roofs or what types of roofs don't work. Can you talk about, in general, building types that are best for kind of a drone inspection or drone deploy?
Yeah, absolutely. The short answer is all building types. I'll give some details. So we do a lot on residential, we do a lot of roof measurement reports. Our solar customers are using us hundreds of times a day to do roof measurements. And so that's where we really have a big fit. The commercial roofs are where we get into a lot of the analysis and thermal analysis that I showed as well, bigger commercial roofs. I would say commercial roofs, it can be warehouses, big box retailers. We do regular small box retailers, strip malls, all different types. The benefits are the same: faster, less expensive, more standardized, no matter what type of roof it is.
Great. Chris, another question for you. Do you see that parapet walls around mechanical well areas become an issue when one material, asphalt, meets splashing?
I understand that question. Well, as long as it's detailed correctly, that's something again that needs to be looked at to the metal flashings and things, because that you have points that are the weaker links, so to speak, where the sealants at those flashings, the overlaps, things like that, the joints in the different metal products, those are the weaker links in those components to the roof system. And that's really where also when we open up old roofs, we see a lot of times the old flashings were not brought up and over the wall before that cap piece was put on. And that's really, it's kind of disguised because the water's coming in through that cap or the joints or some of those pictures we saw, and it's getting right down behind the roof because the roof wasn't actually extended correctly over it onto the face of the building or the other side of that, like a parapet wall, for example. So it's usually a case of some installation or poor installation details.
And that's something that your roof contractor should be able to identify, right, Chris?
Absolutely. And a lot of times it takes a bit of destructive type of research to actually pop some of that metal off to really see if the details were done correctly. It could have been 10 or 20 years ago. And you don't really know what you don't know until you open it up and see it.
Right. Andrew, another question for you. Somebody asked if you can speak a little bit more about inspecting rooftop equipment with drones and any suggestions you have about that.
Yeah, so the way drones work is the general technology is really accurate, really close up flying cameras. That's what a drone is. It's just a flying camera that's really programmed to fly accurately and close to the roof, and good camera. So anything that you can see, you can inspect, because what our software does is take all those images and turn it into a 3-dimensional model, and then you can scroll through it and look through it and tag it and annotate it. So anything that you can inspect with taking pictures of an RTU, you can inspect with a drone. So many of our customers are doing like basic conditions. One of our customers actually is asking us, can you do a recording? Can you record sound so we can determine the engine of the RTU? Is it really what's the quality of that? No, unfortunately we can't. But besides recording the sound, anything you can see with imagery, you can inspect. Our artificial intelligence inspection doesn't work with RTUs yet. We're still tweaking it to improve for the roofs themselves. But manual inspection, obviously, anything we can see, we can inspect.
So we talked a little earlier about metal roof, and some of that is not the best for thermal imaging. Is there anything you would recommend for metal roofing that's similar to thermal imaging that would work with that system? Either of you have any responses to that question?
I am not the metal roof expert, unfortunately. We're mostly TPO and EDPMs. That's where we stay.
Yeah, that's really just a physical inspection of walking that roof and taking a good physical close-up view of it is probably the best. I would say the metal, it's almost like putting your cell phone inside of one of those lead bags so nobody sees it. That's kind of with the metal, with that technology, it makes it difficult for them to really hone in underneath that.
Yeah, so getting up on top of the roof and that boots on the ground is probably the best for that type of environment. Perfect. Andrew and Chris, you both kind of talked about, for thermal imaging, it's more important about time of day. Andrew, you mentioned you do yours, half hour after sunset. Obviously, that's what you would recommend. Somebody's just asking the best time of day and time of year to do thermal imaging on their roof.
Yeah, don't do it if there's snow on the roof. That's first step. Beyond that, time of year is not a big thing. What you want is it to be a hot day and then the sun cools down, because then what happens is that the top level of the surface of the roof is very cool, but the specific heat of water is higher. So the water penetration that might be under that top layer is going to retain its heat. And so when you go after sunset, you're going to get a cool roof with warm water, and it lights up like a Christmas tree, I like to say, and you can detect a lot of the leaks right then. So the thing about it with drones, and I saw another question here, I'll kind of go on a 2-question thing here, but they asked like, what's different about drone deploy or just doing a thermal imaging. The thermal imaging camera, you're just walking, taking pictures on the roof one by one, and you have to look at each individual photo. With drone deploy, it's a similar camera, so the sensor itself is not different, but what's different is that we're flying back and forth. We take hundreds of photos and then we stitch them all together into one big photo. It's just like with your iPhone, if you do the panorama, you take like 6 photos and it stitches them into one big one. It's the same type of technology. But what that does, stitching them all together, is allows you to see the whole roof, and you can very quickly identify where the issues are instead of going photo by photo and looking at each photo. So that's really the difference. Time of day, very important. You have to fly half hour after sunset. That's, that's very standard for thermal roof imaging.
Chris, anything to add?
That's the type of things we recommend. Yeah. The other thing is before we go into a re-roof, if they're leaving the existing roof, we'll request that a service like Andrews comes in and does those thermal scans so that we know that we're not having our guys roof over moist or wet materials. You don't want to trap that in there before it's done. It gives you a good idea if those areas need to be cut out, or maybe the entire roof is just so saturated that it's time to come off before you can replace it.
Great. Well, Chris, we have a few questions specific to TPO roofs. So one about ways to, so let's start with when would you use PVC
Sure.
roof over a TPO roof?
Sure. Again, the PVC, just the inherent benefits of that, or the polyvinyl, PVC in natural state is like the plumbing that your drains use to go out. It's a nice hard material that's resistant to all those different contaminants and chemicals so that it doesn't affect that piping. The material on the roof is very much the same, so it lends itself to places around the airport where jet fuels can be exhausted more frequently. Restaurants where you have, like in those photos, a lot of animal fats. Those are any animal fats, greases, petroleum-based products are just an enemy of nearly all roofing materials. PVC, just again, the inherent characteristics of the formulations of those materials give it that kind of defense system that the other systems don't offer. So that's absolutely it's more of a specialized almost material in that case, to where it really lends itself well towards if you're going to have contamination happening up on that roof. I can go right down. Extending the best way is really keeping those roofs clean, keeping the water off of them. Unfortunately, they age differently in the southern half than the northern half of the country, where you have higher UV exposure. They're not covered by snow over the winter. Those materials start to break down over time. Now we have different UV stabilizers and different weathering packages that have extended those lives up to 20 and 30 years with no questions asked. But there's really nothing else than just good care and maintenance that you can do to maintain and keep that roof performing as long as it's expected life expectancy. And then the last one about TPO is power washing. Absolutely, there's power washing. People use floor scrubbers. It's funny that with the whole reflectivity thing that really happened over the last decade or so, we've actually seen an industry almost start that cleans roofs. Who would have ever thought you'd be up power washing and cleaning your roof so that you can regain that initial reflective quality that those membranes provided up front. Once they get airborne dust and dirt and other construction things, it's nice to keep it clean. And some owners are very good about keeping it clean, and it does help keep their cooling bills down a little bit.
Great. Yeah, I think you handled all of those questions. So thank you, Chris. Andrew, a question for you. Can you talk a little bit about getting executive buy-in, and how do you propose this solution to get executive buy-in?
Now that is a good question. Thank you for whoever asked that, because that's usually the barrier. Couple ways to do executive buy-in. So one, reach out to us and we'll do a POC for you. We'll fly, we'll analyze, we'll show you. Very inexpensive, and you get a sample of your own building in your own way, your own report. And I found that really helps. It's a very low cost to do one to start to see what it looks like. So that's a great way to do it. More generally though, executive buy-in really comes down to ROI. So we oftentimes with our customers, we'll walk through their budgets today for condition assessments. We'll show you what our condition assessments look like and compare the budgets. I think you'll see they're much lower. And then you look at the turnaround times, they'll be much faster. And that's when executive buy-in, the light bulbs start to turn on, right? You start sharing with them that they're having AI detecting defects and that the drones are automatically flying in less than half an hour. The process from start to finish of inspecting is incredibly shrunk and faster. And hopefully that can get you some executive buy-in. And usually that's enough to at least get a POC or a demo or some kind of first option. So hopefully that helps.
Great. Chris, and a kind of similar question, how do you identify and select a great roof contractor? Do you have any suggestions on what people need to be looking for in their roof contractor?
Oh, several ways. Obviously, you have some local organizations that do report, BBB, for example. And I would also look to their websites. A lot of times they'll show that they have affiliations with different associations within the roofing industry, which just demonstrates that they're professional and that they've taken some extra steps to, one, share best practices with other contractors, see who they're licensed with. If they have companies like ours they've gone through our training schools to become certified to use our products and have a license to do so. Also, to lean on somebody like myself, we literally license thousands of contractors across the country. And prior to extending any warranty to the owners, our technical team goes out and inspects those for final inspection before to make sure that it's up to par and any necessary repairs. So we keep a rating on each of those roofing contractors. We have decades of track record on a 0 to 10 basis of the type of installations they put down. And then further, over the life of that warranty, 10, 20, or 30 years, we track how many dollars per square foot we've spent on repairs. So we have a really good gauge and indicator of the quality that type of installer provides.
Great. And one kind of follow-up to that question, somebody was asking about training for their staff.
Sure.
Where would you recommend they start looking for training for their staff on roof maintenance?
And we're still kind of getting out of COVID, we have libraries of online videos as well as other roofing associations, other manufacturers that demonstrate some of the better care and maintenance type practices and detailed type things. Our teams and our local reps are often glad to get up and work with facility team to kind of show them some of those 101 type things that, again, to look for and even to make some quick on the spot repairs, and so you can have that professional come in to make a permanent repair for you.
Perfect. Andrew, we got another question, and just clarifying, is Drone Deploy a subscription-based or contract-based service?
Yes, we are both is a short answer. You need to subscribe to our software, but then as you use it, you can, especially for the analysis tools or the AI specifically, you pay more for each roof. So it's a little bit of a combination. But we work with our customers to make sure that we're in the value of, saving you money overall. So that's how we think about it.
Right. And Chris, this, can be a whole presentation on itself, but if you get to the point where you're having constant maintenance, when do you know if it's time to re-roof or to replace your roof?
Well, the few things that we factor in is the age of the actual roof. At some point they only have so much life expectancy. So if you have a system that was warranted for 20 years, you're probably going to get extra life out of that roof, provided you've used due care and maintenance over the course of its life. But you start to see when the materials just start to break down, and when you have excessive leaks and repairs happening, to where when you're spending more than 2 to 3% annually on what that replace value would be if you were to just replace it, that's when you start looking and say, okay, we're going to continue to spend this every year. It doesn't make sense. We may as well put a bigger spend and stop the annual bleeding.
Great. Andrew, we had a question from an audience member of, do you take any daytime morning pictures before your night infrared pictures?
Absolutely, yeah. Normally, if we're doing a thermal, we're also doing an RGB inspection. So we'll fly, noon, 1 o'clock. Solar noon is a great place to fly daytime for your imagery, and then you show up after sunset for the night flight.
Great. And just kind of a follow-up to that, you were mentioning the 3D model pictures of the building. Can you just give a little bit more information of what that is, and can that model be stored into other data sources like O&M manuals?
Yeah, absolutely. So the 3-dimensional model it's hard to describe what it is. It's a 3D file that you can, flip around, zoom, share. It's it's a 3D file on your screen. I wish I could share my screen. I would just, show you some. what's cool about it though is the annotations, the everything. So you're asking, can you share O&M manuals? No, you don't share that. It's not an image because it's 3-dimensional information, but it appears to you as an image that you can scroll around, sort of like a Google Maps or a Google Street View, if you will, right? So that's a good way to think about it. But the information, we don't necessarily store O&M manuals, we store condition annotations. Broken, needs repair, needs a core cut, that kind of stuff is what's stored on a 3-dimensional model.
Great. Well, we're getting to the end of our time here. If there's any final questions, please make sure to type those in. But I would like to give both Andrew and Chris an opportunity to give any last thoughts or any final advice to the audience as they're starting to look at their annual inspection and maintenance of their roofs. So Andrew, why don't you go ahead and go first?
Sure. I'll just say, I mean, you guys saw the technology that we showed. Drone Deploy has a lot of smart engineers. We're moving really fast. Roofing is a big industry for us. Our AI is getting better by the day. So we love to share love to show demos, show you guys what we can do. So it's very easy to get started. Just reach out to us on our website, and pretty soon we'll be showing on your own buildings how you can benefit from our technology.
Great. Chris, any final advice for our audience?
Just thanks for everybody's time. I do encourage everybody to get a look at their roof at least annually, if not more frequently, especially when there's events that should trigger your interest in getting a look at it. Feel free to lean on folks like myself. We're glad to come out and take a look at those roofs and provide you with a nice evaluation condition report, and also some repair costs as well as a budgeted cost for a replace, so that you can start to kind of hone in on, when are we getting to the point where we really should consider budgeting to replace this roof, because we're spending excessive funds annually now at this point. So we like to try to help people stay ahead of that one as best as possible. And, no, others, just thank you. I appreciate the time.
Great. Yes, the roof is such a major asset to the building, so it's good to make sure that you're not that you're using your dollars wisely for it. Yeah. I'd like to thank both Andrew and Chris and Drone Deploy and Versico Roofing Systems for today's webcast and for being our subject matter experts. Just a reminder, you'll receive an email in about 24 hours that will include a link to the archive of this presentation, as well as your CEU transcript link. So thank you again to Drone Deploy and Versico Roofing Systems, and have a great day, everyone.